Oh, hello. Lovely to see you all today. Hello, Edward. Great to see you. Oh, Dan. Good to see you saying boost the juiced. Hey, we are going to have a wonderful day today. I can't wait to be listening with you. It's going to be fantastic. We're listening to someone very special. A nature obsessioner. Just loves nature so much and it's fantastic at designing. Oh, yeah, I bet you're going to have a good time. Now, I'm Asterix for those of you that don't know me, and you're on IMAGI-NATION TV. It's a place where we look to bring a mentor into every kid's home every single day. Oh, and I just love this week as we've listened and we've sat back, thought about deep listening, thought about listening to ourselves, thought about our inner brat. I bet you all got an inner brat inside of you. Today, get those questions coming in because we have Joost Bakker joining us, and get the questions on those chat lines. Get ready for our Q&A afterwards. Joost, how are you feeling? Oh, let me try and ask again. I must have had a bit of an audio issue. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask a question of Joost. Joost, how are you?
I'm feeling good.
Oh, very good.
Really good.
Very good. Have you seen my cousin Sophie?
Hang on. No.
No, I haven't seen her either. I haven't seen her for some time. I don't know if she has internet connection or something, but one of my friends is really in love with my cousin Sophie.
Okay.
Yes, I may have gone a little bit off topic. Joost, I'm just going to give you the floor soon, so get you ready to go. And if you want to get your presentation ready to rumble, we will get ready to go. I'll tell the audience. Hello, audience. It's lovely to see you. Benita, you love my outfit. I love my outfit too. What color do you think this is? Hey, Brendan Newton, you're a lovely little thing too. Okay, enough of me. Let's get Joost ready to deliver the keynote. Spectacular on IMAGI-NATION TV. Joost, are you ready to go?
Ready? Let's go.
Okay, over to you, my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get this party started. We're a collective round of applause for Joost Bakker. Let's go, 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 go.
Yep, I'm good. Here we go. Thanks for having me, guys. It's I'm here to explain who I am and what I do. And it's quite simple, really. I'm just obsessed with waste. I'm actually obsessed with not generating any waste. And I think that my inspiration, which is nature, is really what guides my work. And so for the last 25 years, I've done many different projects. I've created art from what people perceive to be waste, created installations and buildings. And so, yeah, I'm really going to just explain how over the last 25 years, what kind of work I've done and, where I am today and what I'm about to do next. So in the 90s, I was known for creating works of art out of waste. So you can see on the left in the 90s, I was hanging tulips with electrical cables that were being thrown out. And I was creating all sorts of different sculptures and pieces, mainly from stuff that was being thrown away. About 20 years ago, I started designing vertical gardens as well. The very first one was made from concrete Rio mesh. And it allowed terracotta pots to be locked into a grid. And again, that was inspired by waste. My family were concreting and I saw the Rio mesh lying there and I thought, well, why don't I just create a vertical garden? And I think in the last 20 years we've sold something like 10,000 square meters of that vertical garden, and it's in Google headquarters in San Francisco, and it's sold all over the world. We sell it in places like Spain and all throughout Asia, and it's used as internal vertical gardens, and basically a simple way to introduce plants into your environment. I'm a believer in that we need to immerse ourselves and we need to be more embedded with nature, and our buildings need to be like nature. In 2006, I created at Flemington Racecourse a marquee for Macquarie Bank, and the marquee was made from waste. The floor was made from rubber tires, the furniture was made from packing crates, and the whole building was covered in a shell of steel that was guarded. 2006, I also built our family home, which again was completely recyclable. So, the concept of zero waste. So I borrowed, I used nature to inspire me and use material that can be recycled. And I think if we start to do that, if we stop generating materials that can't be recycled, we'll solve most of our problems pretty quickly. In 2008, I wanted to create a building that explained the concept of zero waste, and it was actually in the heart of Melbourne at Federation Square. The whole building was made from steel, recycled steel, and it was insulated with straw. And straw is the biggest waste product in the world. Straw is what's left over when you grow wheat, rice, oats, barley, most of the crops. And it could be used to make paper, to insulation, cardboard, rather than using trees. So I'm quite obsessed with the idea of using straw in our buildings. 2009, we did another pop-up, well, it wasn't really a pop-up restaurant, it was a permanent restaurant in Perth, and that actually won Best New Restaurant in Australia, and Matt Stone, who was my chef, won Best Chef in Australia. And in 2011, the Sydney Harbour Foreshore invited me to build one in Circular Quay, which was really quite groundbreaking, because we had a composter at the entrance, so no organic waste was going to landfill. And we implemented all these zero waste options, like having mineral water on tap. So we made our own cola, we made our own tonic water, we had wine and spirits. Everything was on tap, so we didn't generate glass or any waste, which is really, I'm really proud of that. 2012 was a pretty big year. I did another restaurant for the Food and Wine Festival for their 20th wedding anniversary, and implementing a lot of zero waste ideas, but also built the world's first house that ever survived a full-blown bushfire. So the CSIRO actually have a site in Mogo, Bateman's Bay. They actually test fire trucks from all over the world, but also houses to withstand proper immersion. So they use like 5,000-6,000 litres of gas to create a flame that can be up to 8 minutes. And they wait for the wind to be at the right speed, and then they actually try and burn things down to see how resilient they are. And no building had ever actually survived this test, and we weren't expecting ours to survive either. We were just seeing where the building would fail. And to everyone's surprise, it actually survived. And the cladding material on the outside is a product called magnesium oxide board. And I actually wasn't interested in its fire-resistant properties at all when I started using it. I was more interested in that it's a cladding material that can be crushed and turned back into the same material. So like nature, I believe our buildings should be made from materials that can be used that can be recycled forever. Closed loop circular economy is what I'm just about. So the materials I used were magnesium oxide board, which proved to be incredibly fire resistant, steel frame windows, and one of the most important things for this building was the roof. It kept the building really cool. It was 1,000 degrees on the outside. It was a 45-minute test, and full cover for 3 minutes. And inside, the temperature went from 24 to 28 degrees, which was mind-blowing, really. 2012, I also opened the world's first zero-waste restaurant, Silo by Joost, and that had no bin at all. So we made our own bread from grain. We milled our own oats. From scratch. Wherever waste was being generated, we basically worked from the back and worked out a way to totally avoid it. So I'm really proud of that. Cafe and restaurant, and our head chef has actually gone on to open Silo in London. Google it; it's winning so many awards. It's the UK's first zero waste restaurant. It's mind blowing. It basically showed and proved that you can own a restaurant and not need rubbish bins. 2014, I changed the concept to brothel, where we collected waste like rock Attica and turned it into food, which we served in our restaurant. Kind of took the zero waste concept to a whole other level. And it actually inspired the wasted movement by Dan Barber in New York, who was following our project and created this incredible movement in New York, which is now zero waste concept has become a really big thing. 2014, I also started building we designed a house in King Lake, a bushfire-resistant house, which featured last week actually on Grand Designs in Australia. And really proud of the decommissioned, deregistered shipping container to house all the bathrooms and toilets inside. The skin of the building is made from crushed bricks, so recycled. 1 in every 3 bricks is broken and discarded. And he said, have you got any ideas for these bricks that are currently being wasted? So I came up with this concept of a wall that's covered in mesh. And for me, it's about creating a skin to a building that allows plants to attach themselves to the building. Or building can become a green, overgrown building. The bricks, so don't like a brick wall, which is of thermal mass. Loose bricks don't actually heat up because they're your hand on a gravel driveway. You put your hand on a brick or concrete driveway, it's very hot on a hot day. So I was determined not to design a house that would add to the heat island effect. This building's got about 60 tons of soil on the roof as well, and so it's totally covered with a green roof, and it's completely off grid. So it's not connected to any power. It's self-sufficient in water, and I really believe this is the future. It's a completely zero waste house. And in 100 years' time, people want to pull it down, they can recycle every single bit of it. And it's also insulated with straw. So I'll talk about my next project, which I've been working on now for years, and it's about disrupting and changing our food system, because our food system is really the most destructive thing on earth. It's hard to believe, but yeah, what we eat and how we eat is really what's destroying the planet. And so I'm quite obsessed with this idea that we generate a lot of waste, and our waste really needs to, like nature, go back into our food system. And I think the best place to do that is where you live. So rather than transporting our waste to other people and letting other people deal with it like we currently do all over the Western world, why don't we create zero waste buildings that use what we currently call waste as a nutrient source for gardens that then harness, that you can then harvest and use. So this is according to the World Bank. This is an old study from 2008, but it has been used a lot because it was many believe it's very accurate. Close to 60% of the world's carbon emissions are because of our food system. That includes the growing, the chemicals used, the transporting of food, the destruction of forests to try and grow more food, and it isn't good. And it definitely needs a radical rethink and a radical change. Just to give you an idea, transport, which is all the planes, trains, trucks, ships, account for 17% of the world's carbon emissions. So our food is really where the problem is at. Food waste is another massive problem, and it's valued at close to $1 trillion. So for every 3 kilos of food we grow, a kilo gets thrown out. And again, I think that's because we are so far removed from our food system. Not only that, our food is no longer nourishing us. We all need to be supplemented with calcium or zinc or iron or manganese, or, and it's because I think we've mined all the nutrients from the soils, and that's also one of the reasons why deforestation is so bad at the moment, because farmers are looking for fresh soil that contain all these nutrients. To me, the solution is right where we live. We generate nutrients where we live. We need to stop treating them as a problem and as a waste product. Like my t-shirt says, I don't know if you can see that. Start taking the piss. Anyway, soil, like I just explained, has been totally devoid and stripped. It's been mined like everything else. So we need to stop. I believe we need to rest soils. We need to take the pressure off farmland and start rewilding to create more habitat again for wild animals. We don't need to be using as much land as what we currently do to grow food. So I think we can solve this problem by simply changing the way we live. And it's not that hard. And there's actually lots and lots of technology that has existed for a long time that can allow us to do that. So we can completely change the way we live by growing food where we live, and then harnessing this food and being off grid as well. So my next project's called Greenhouse, and it's like other greenhouses. This is actually going to be a house, and it's going to be situated at Federation Square. And it's a modular building that's quite small. The footprint's 78 square meters. But what I'm hoping to prove is that by having a completely zero waste house, you can grow enough food for the people that live there. So I'm just completely mimicking nature. So I'm copying what happens in nature. A waste from a plant, when a plant dies, becomes food for something else. And if we actually use that, then we can do the same thing here. We've got a biodigester which takes the waste from the toilet and the organic waste from the kitchen and actually turns it into gas for cooking. Solar panels load up the battery wall. We've got water circulation systems, and we will be harnessing all the water. We don't have a water shortage problem. We've got a water management problem. So the key with this house is that we're actually using it as a resource and harnessing it to grow food, but also for showers, and we're not wasting any of that. We're actually filtering it, putting it back onto our food system. I'm quite obsessed with a Dr. Weston Price, who was a dentist in the 1920s that traveled the world, trying to understand why Americans were suffering such bad tooth decay and poor jaw development. The idea of braces is really a very modern idea. And so he traveled the world for over 10 years, going to primitive tribes and actually studying and testing the foods that they ate. He noticed that in the 1920s, when the geographical societies were traveling the world and coming back with images of primitive people, perfect jaws, perfect teeth, he thought, well, maybe our modern diet is lacking something. And he actually attributed Australian Aboriginals. He came here 3 times. He said that they had the best diet in the world. They carried one tooth cavity to 300 teeth, and they had up to 12 times more vitamins and minerals in their diet than what the average American was. So he proved that if we increase the nutrient density of our food, we could actually avoid tooth decay completely. Another test that he did with children is feeding children that had tooth cavities nutrient-dense diets, and within 6 weeks, their cavities were closed up. We have all that data, all that research. 10 years at one stage, you had over 50 doctors and scientists working on analyzing primitive diets from all over the world: the Alaskan Eskimos, the tribes in Africa, villages in Switzerland that were disconnected from the rest of Switzerland. And the conclusion was that we needed a 10 times more nutrient dense to allay tooth decay, but also improve general well-being. So I'm using that data to try and recreate that same diet, but using a house. So to do that, I need to have an aquaponic system that grows freshwater mussels and different species of fish. We've got a cricket farm where we're growing insects. We've got 2 chickens that are resident chickens, hundreds of different species of plants that provide all kinds of different things. Like we'll be making ice cream from pumpkin seeds. We'll be making our own milk from tiger nuts, making our own yogurt from tiger nuts. So it's going to be quite exciting, a resident beehive as well. So I think the food will be really exciting, but I'm not the best at cooking stuff, but these two are. So Matt Stone and Joe Barrett. Matt and Joe used to work for me when I had restaurants, and they're going to be the residents in this house and live there and grow and harvest the food and cook this incredible food. We'll also open this building up for school tours, both physical school tours and virtual. So you'll be able to go online and actually walk through the building and see the food that we're harvesting. And I'm also working with the CSIRO and scientists and researchers. Every day we will post a different dish. So you'll be able to follow this stuff through social media, through YouTube, and actually see what we're harvesting, what we're cooking. The nutrient density of the food will be tested. And ultimately, we'll be able to see if we can be successful in growing enough food where we live. This slide shows some of the many systems. There's an atrium that has an aquaponic system and growing things like barramundi and allows us to grow cucumbers and tomatoes year round. Many different things like vanilla beans and coffee. We've also got a mycelium wall where all of our organic waste, even denim jeans, can be crushed and inoculated with mycelium and then grow mushrooms. Got a worm farm, got a charcoal tank which filters the water, got a closed loop shower. And all these things together behave a little bit like a natural ecosystem. The whole thing is really a complete copy. It's not, none of these ideas are mine. My idea is really that I've just combined all these ideas into one. And like I said, my inspiration is really nature. I think it's got all the answers. So yeah, that's really where it's at. That's my next project. I can actually walk you around and show you some of the things that I've done and created. And I'm home now, like everybody else is. So I can actually show you some of the things in our house. So this is a house that I built in 2006. Here's some artwork that a friend of mine created, David Bromley. It's the old Ford Motor Show stand. This is a hard rubbish find. Jeffrey Manns, a friend of mine, created a light. Oh, it wasn't actually light. I was the one that decided to put the chair on the ceiling and turn it into a light. The brick walls on the inside are thermal mass, and they actually keep the house cool. You know, there's lots of reclaimed materials like furniture made from waste, and there's Charlie and the girls doing homework. That lights are made from beehive frames. Here's an artwork that I've created out of pickets from a picket fence. So yeah, this whole house is a straw bale house. So it's got straw in the ceiling, straw below the concrete. It's got vertical gardens around it. I'll walk outside so you can actually see some of the vertical gardens. And you can also see the skeleton of the frame of my next project. Here's my dogs. There's Molly. He always gets cold. And there's Jess. Hello, Jess. Here's some artwork from a project I did years ago, which is old pallets and vinyl. I can't stand PVC. So this is PVC vinyl. So all the banners that you see along the road and all the truck curtains are all embedded with PVC. So I try and use that material and repurpose it. Yeah, we're outside now, so you can see the house. Here's an interesting fact. When we put solar panels on the roof there, you can see our solar system there. There were 67,000 houses with solar in Australia. That is in 2006. Today, there's over 2 million. So in a very short space of time, we are totally disrupting our energy system. Here you can see the vertical garden on our wall, which are strawberries, which I was talking about earlier. And then next to it, you can see my next project, that's completely zero waste house. So this steel frame allows lots of soil. I can put 40 tons of soil on the roof of this building to grow lots and lots of food. So not only do I want this building to be completely off grid and zero waste in every single way. So we're using plant-based materials to insulate it, like straw. The building is coated with rubber made from dandelions. The rooftop soil is made from waste, organic waste that's composted by my neighbors. They've got a huge compost farm. And then this building allows solar to be on the very roof and a battery bank. The battery bank is a very old battery system that are luckily still made. They are called Edison batteries. They've been around for over 100 years. And the beauty about Edison batteries is they're completely recyclable. So all the energy from the roof will be going into a battery system, which will provide the energy for the building. So the tiny footprint of 78 square meters allows this quite large building to be delivered on one truck. So all these modules slide into one another. So when they arrive on one truck, and you can slide them out and bolt them all together. So this design allows for huge soil loads, and the soil on the rooftop gardens also allow it to be, you don't need foundation. The 40 to 60 tons of soil on the roof will actually stop it from blowing away. So yeah, that's my next project. And yeah, I hope I'm looking forward to actually realizing this in July this year. That's it.
Joost, this was amazing. You've just done some really quite incredible things with your life, haven't you?
Never a dull moment.
Well, I want to ask a couple of questions. We as we were moving through, one of the things which I was fascinated about was how you've studied what's come before and look back and really trying to bring all of these things together that have already existed. And you hear it so often. You know, people say, "Oh, the answers are in nature," but when you say, "Oh, you just put all the soil on the roof and then you don't need any foundations," it's just it's so clever that it makes my brain hurt. Does your brain hurt?
No, but I do always get inspired and fascinated how much knowledge there is out there, and especially with internet today, you can just access so many things, and there's so many books that have been uploaded, and so much wisdom is already out there. And really, the first houses were caves. They were soil covered. They stayed cool. The house in King Lake has got no air conditioning, very little heating. It's got all the soil on the roof, which stops the house from burning in a bushfire, but it keeps it very cool in summer and very warm in winter. So I feel that every time we build a building, we take land. And the reason why I'm obsessed with putting soil on buildings is because it gives that land back to nature. Another house that I did in Dalesford, one day I drove up and there were hundreds of birds on the roof eating, the dandelions that were coming up on the roof. So it provides habitat. It means that you don't get stormwater runoff. So when you have those huge downpours, which cause all these problems in cities, it's because we've created all these hard surfaces that and green roofs hold water, they slow it down, and there's actually hundreds of benefits to it.
It's an amazing thing when we go back in time and we just start learning. We're lucky enough with the work we do at AIM. We work with lots and lots of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island kids around Australia, lots of kids who have traditionally been outside the margins and considered, non-mainstream kids in other countries, in South Africa, in Australia, in Uganda, in Nigeria, and in Zimbabwe. We've just started working, and Zimbabwe has just been listed as one of the places with significant food crises. And so as you were talking through that, you think, wow, imagine the solutions we could create in those places. And one thing I was listening in very keenly about the dentist man. He seemed like a fascinating character, and it's so cool to see that also the evolution of language over the last 100 years or so. When we reflect on the stories of our Aboriginal Torres Strait Island people, for example, Bruce Pascoe has done this amazing work looking into the history of Indigenous people in Australia, and he's seen that this idea that there were sort of primitive cultures or noble savages was actually completely wrong, that there were 10,000 plus years of genius already established, architecture happening, all of these fish farms and fantastic things. So I think seeing that perseverance and understanding of where people have come from, and also seeing that fascinatingly with our Aboriginal people, for example, in Australia, there's all of this genius. It's probably the furthest thing from primitive. In many ways, it was almost the perfect evolution, and we might have gone and ruined some things along the way, and now we're trying to learn from the past again.
I know, and I just love learning. There's so much. It's such a shame that we don't have more work by people like Weston Price, who it's actually really nice to look into. He had such huge respect for the Aboriginal culture, and they saw that in him. So they imparted him with knowledge about how they prepared certain foods, why they ate certain foods at certain times of years or of the year, or why when they were sick they would eat a certain thing. And the knowledge, the accumulated knowledge was so, you're talking about 40 to 60,000 years of accumulated knowledge, and he was desperate for it. He was hungry for it, and that's. And it's quite remarkable that in a land with quite poor soil, he actually believed that they had the best diet in the whole world out of all the diets that he tested. And here's to the revival of that which is that. Oh, I had a bit of a stumble. The revival of that which is happening so much across the country as well. We've got some fantastic questions coming in from the chat line. Before we go there, we'd love to try and explore a couple of things with you as we navigate our work with creating a fairer world as well. It's fascinating. The more we can share from experts like you in the field. And actually, last year we've had a clothing line for almost 10 years, and we do this hoodie and it does very well. It's become a symbol of change. And we thought, it seems like there's almost 100 billion clothes made every year, and a lot of them are ending up in the ground. Maybe we could try and find a solution for that. So we started reclaiming dead stock and just putting an AIM logo on it and getting major brands to donate their dead stock. So that's one thing we're looking at. We'd love to try and work out how we create a complete zero waste hoodie. That'd be fun to explore. And the other one on the wish list is, how do we create, say, a brick out of clothing? Is that possible if we took all of that dead material and could we turn it into a brick, or what can we do with it? Well, I think upcycling. So the idea, like Levi's has actually come out and said that by 2025, they will make no denim from virgin material. So all their denim, everything will be made from harvested denim. So the idea of a circular economy, I think, will we'll look back at this time, at the last 20 to 30 years and 100 years time ago. What were they thinking? You know, we're using so much land to grow cotton, yet there's technology that exists today that allows us to reclaim fabric and turn it back into a fabric. And in 18 months ago, Levi's made the world's first 100% reclaimed denim jean. And it was so successful that the CEO came out and said that within the next 5 years, it was his goal to turn the company around and use no virgin cotton. So technology all over the world, there's thousands of companies working really hard to try and create technology that allows those materials to be in a closed loop. And that's the reason why I use steel, because I know that steel can be easily recycled, separated, and used for another building or a car, or, you know, so I'm really obsessed with materials that can be endlessly recycled and endlessly reused and are non-toxic to people working to recycle them. I'm not interested in materials that make people sick or they need to wear a mask to work with them or cut them, and that was actually the reason why I explored that material that turned out to be so fire resistant as well. It's a non-toxic natural material that the Romans used.
Wow. We've got some comments from the chat line. Jared Weiss saying, this is very, very cool. Ruby Bancroft saying, we have a future if we act now for change. Cam Newton saying, this is awesome. Barramundi in cricket, we need to act now. We've got Kat saying, love, love, love your work. Alexander saying, problem solving at its finest. Oh, there's lots of love coming in from the chat line. Wow, you've done a very good job. Hey, Joost, as you think about what's next for you, I'm fascinated by how the heck you go to sleep at night and how the heck you get up and keep going. This is a big body of work. How are you sustaining your full cycle energy loop of the machine man that is Joost?
Well, it's an addiction. I'm just hungry for information. So I'm always, once you achieve something, and you know, I've got to say as well, I left school when I was 17. So I'm not a trained architect. I'm not a restaurateur. I'm not a trained chef. I'm nothing really, but I am obsessed with seeing more sustainable ways. So I just love when people say that's impossible. You can't build a house the way you want to build it. You can't put soil on the roof. So all I need is somebody to tell me that I can't do something. You can't have a zero waste restaurant. It's impossible. That's what I was told in 2008 when I did the first one. And so Silo for me was really about proving that it is possible. And the way that we did that restaurant was that we made the kitchen the heart of the restaurant. So everyone sat in the kitchen, so we couldn't hide anything. Everything was exposed. And yeah, if somebody tells me that you can't do something, that's my catalyst, and I just get on with it. And I really believe
I have one for you. I have one. Let's assume the ocean is rising. I think science sort of gives us that. Why can't we use, say, I don't know, if it's leftover clothing or whatever it might be, we take a bunch of things and we build a bunch of bricks and we create, you know, lots and lots of cities that have water coming through them. We just lift up the islands. Why can't we just build them up?
Well, I also believe that the oceans are actually vital because we have, I mean, one of the reasons why we're actually so susceptible to coronavirus at the moment is because our zinc levels are so low. So if you look at primitive cultures like Aboriginal cultures or many of the primitive cultures, when they got things like this, they would load themselves up on zinc, you know, through eating oysters or mussels or, you know, but a lot of the foods, whereas we used to eat potatoes or we used to eat things that contained a lot of zinc, but because harvesting crop after crop, year after year after year, all the zinc has been gone and taken from the soil, so it's no longer there. So the ocean is actually still the last place that hasn't been mined of these. So things that are grown in the ocean, an oyster is a classic example. And one oyster filters 11 liters of water every single day. One oyster. And if we each eat 6 oysters a day, then we would have the zinc levels that primitive Aboriginals had. I mean, they had clever ways of, you know, obviously if they didn't have access to the ocean and they were in the middle of Australia, they found other things that were really high in zinc, certain nuts, certain seeds, or particular insects.
And I think as we do that learning loop, I think one thing we could even just lose. I think losing the word primitive might even be a way of just saying Aboriginal people for 60,000 years, because I think that's what the research. Check out Bruce Pascoe and some of the new research that's coming out.
I know Bruce. I've met Bruce a few times.
I think that part is a good one for us and the listeners to go, well, let's look at the genius of what's happened before, and it's good enough for people to be remembered as continuing cultures and 60,000 years of continual culture. So let's just slice out that word primitive, and we can have some waste of that,
But
and then we can just have
but
genius Aboriginal
how
people.
arrogant could we be to think that knowledge wasn't and isn't vital to life? You know, there's so much knowledge out there and amazing cultures all over the world that we need to learn from.
Absolutely. Joost, it has been fantastic having you today on Imagination TV. You have really taken us to some places to push our imagination, and we believe so much at AIM that it is about taking on the impossible with your imagination. And if anybody says you can't do it, go for it even harder. Thank you for walking the talk. We'd love to explore what we can do together to keep creating a fairer world and inspire kids. And maybe we can create a zero waste hoodie. Who knows? Let's just do cool stuff, and we'll be your fan club, and keep doing what you're doing. Your work is critical. You're on the front line, and you're leading change, which will be critical for humankind. So thank you for being who you are and doing what you do.
I also want to say that I've never seen such an exciting time. Like, I've been in this space for 25 years. The last 2 years, especially, the drive and determination by the next generation to make change. It's never been a better time to be alive. Seriously, do it now. Be the change.
Unreal. Thank you, Joost. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on Imagination TV. That's a wrap. We'll be back tomorrow with the artist segment. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you for creating. Let's keep imagining and then doing, as Joost has done with his life. Without action, it's just a dream that you sort of fart away when you wake up. Let's act, let's dream, let's repeat, and let's change this planet.